The United States claims to regard freedom of speech as a democratic ideal. This is unquestionably correct. Just as long as you publicly support all of its home and foreign policies. If you don't follow the White House's basic rule on freedom of speech, you'll be censored. Which, not for the first time, is exactly what happened when Press TV's internet domain was taken without warning, along with the domains of other Iranian regional networks. Press TV's YouTube platform has also been frozen in recent months, reflecting the fact that US-owned corporations that make a big show about valuing global freedom of speech and diversity of opinion are actually very much under the thumb and control of the US government, and will do exactly what the government demands. What's more telling is that almost no justification or convincing explanation for why such filtering occurs has been presented. It would be one thing if outlets like Press TV continued to flout community norms when it came to social media, or if their website names were being used in violation of any laws. However, the lack of genuine rationale is due to the fact that guidelines and regulations are not being breached, and the US government is simply selecting who has freedom of expression on the internet and who does not, thereby making themselves the arbiters of criticism and accountability. Other countries that have questioned the US narrative and political activities, such as Venezuela, have also found themselves blocked on social media sites in an obvious attempt to quiet individuals asking questions and disagreeing with Washington's stance on a variety of subjects. However, attempts to silence alternative views reveal that an increasing number of people disagree with the US's policies and reasons for its actions, and that those voices are having an impact. As never before, social media and the presence of non-mainstream media channels have challenged and shattered the monopoly on narrative presented by countries like the United States. This is something that the US administration is concerned about. Following a global outpouring of sympathy for the Palestinians, Palestinian voices breaking through the mainstream media's lies and spin, as well as the governments they serve, have recently been removed and silenced on platforms like Instagram and elsewhere. The list might go on forever. The US administration would not muzzle outlets critical of its policies if it had nothing to fear. But, of course, the world is changing, and rapidly, with rising economic powers throughout the world contending for hegemony and challenging US hegemony, while global communication and information sharing reflect the fact that the world is shrinking and becoming more interconnected than ever before. Finally, the US government's unwarranted crackdown on platforms it doesn't like should worry journalists all over the world, as well as anyone who believes free speech is crucial. And the US administration should be aware that actions like this do nothing to improve the country's image. People will realize what is going on and, despite of censorship, will find a way to get the information they need. There's a peculiar scholarly quality to it all as well. The US is worried about foreign media outlets just asking questions and holding the government accountable, which is exactly what journalists are supposed to do. It's straight out of Orwell's playbook to stifle any and all opposing voices. But the reality is that Iran and nations like Venezuela, which the US has banned from using the internet, are not countries that pose a threat to the US, nor have they meddled or interfered in its domestic affairs. We all know it's the other way around in reality, and it has been for decades, and millions of people all around the world want it to change. However, the US crackdown on channels such as Press TV and others is just a tactic that runs parallel to its continuing and failed foreign policy, which is aimed at influencing and controlling the global narrative of events in its own favor. Many people thought that a change in leadership in Washington after the election would mean that the White House would take a different approach to countries like Iran, but with these additional steps of censorship, it's obvious than ever that in 2021, it'll be business as usual.